we run up to the union budget, it's time for an NOW budget exclusive. Sources tell your channel that the government is reviewing its capex targets with ministries and departments ahead of the union budget. My colleague Prakash is here with more exclusive details on this. Prakash.
Well, that's an important development coming in as we are learning from our sources that the government is reviewing the capital expenditure targets with ministries, departments ahead of the Union Budget 2027. A comprehensive review underway to finalize capex targets for financial year 2027. And most importantly, as sources suggest that the government is likely to increase capex targets by 15 to 20% for FY27. In fact, the Finance Ministry is also looking for new capex drivers to spur demand in the economy. Potential capacity of key sectors also being examined. In fact, the government capex may be expanded to new segments such as urban infrastructure and sunrise sectors. Along with that, ministries like railways, road transport and highways, ports and shipbuildings have been major growth driver for capex. If you look at the data, current data, the centre's total capex for the first half of FY26 stood at approx 53% of the budget estimate, and the central government is hopeful of achieving 11.21 lakh crore capex target set for FY26. Along with that, sources also indicate that the Finance Ministry is likely to review state capex spending status for FY26 next month, which stands at approx 34% of budget estimate during the first half of FY26. A very crucial development coming in, and we are expecting slightly higher capital expenditure target for FY27. Back to you.
Okay, Prakash, thanks for taking us through all of those details. Mr. Subramaniam, weigh in here in terms of where the government capex is headed now that we're pivoting our focus more towards a consumption-based economy, and we were talking about consumption before this. Where do you think, or rather, what do you think the role of private and government capex could be ahead of the budget, and any announcement, estimate if you have on that figure?
Flat on the government capex front, it was 11 lakh crores. The reason is, I think the government has realized over the last couple of years, especially, that government capex is not leading to the adequate amount of jobs, adequate amount of money in the hands of the middle class. So they have shifted to a consumption orientation, both through the income tax cut that they did in the last budget and the GST cuts. So this new thinking of the government is likely to go through because they have realized that the capacity utilization in the country, right, has to be driven up, and that can be done through consumption. And once that happens, private capex will get its energy and then replace that. So I think the government last year got the mix right in their minds in terms of saying, okay, capex is a focus, but let's keep it stable, but let's increase increasing amount of money to what I would call as developmental populism, right? Where you give the money, but that again goes back into supporting development in a way through the capacity utilization happening. So I think that this budget will strengthen that. So you might see a lot of incentives for private sector capex to pick up. I don't know in what form, in terms of tax breaks or maybe a renewed PLI scheme. So I expect that the government this time will focus its energies on sustaining its capex at the current levels, giving a boost to private capex and giving a boost to private consumption. That's the new mantra I think that they will follow. And as far as the capex story is concerned, so private sector will have to take a larger burden of doing the capex part in the country. Also, they will try to help the states because I think central government has generally been proactive, but the states probably are the ones lagging. And one final point on the capex, I think this has been talked about in the past, but it has not come through, is the public-private partnerships on the capex. Because as you know, a lot of the PSUs sit on a lot of land, they have a lot of resources at their story, but they just don't have the whatever you call it, the aggression and the ability to think long term in their businesses to really take advantage. So public-private partnership where the public sector gives its land as part of its equity contribution and private sector takes that up and goes forward, I think could be a big story in this budget if it clicks. So PPP, I think, will be the buzzword in this budget, hopefully.